Hi, it's Nancy with Gardens Grow, and our last post we talked about a glimpse of what's coming for this spring when the garden and this whole entire gardening season, because we're going by the history of what it was before. Today is beautiful. It feels just like spring. We have a little bit of rain, not enough to really soak the ground, but just enough to get dampness in the air, and it just feels wonderful that supposedly cold and snow is on its way. Yes, we're in Oklahoma, and so anyway, I'm looking forward to continuing on kind of from where we left you at the last post. If you have not been following the garden scrolls, I came out here so you could see that there really truly is a garden back here. It needs cleaning out, and I apologize for plastic being on everything, but it does help save it, and so I just feel it's best for us to have it on there. I don't do much of a winter garden, as you can tell, but I take that time to take a break from it and to take care of the houseplants that I bring inside, because I will bring them back out in the spring, the late spring also. So as I was saying, winter is a harder time to actually do a garden post, but taking the time to dream is the first constructive step toward anything. And it's a good thing to dream in the garden, and it's fun. It's way more fun to dream it than it is to get out there and put in the labor to do it. But if you want to see those visions come true, you got to get out there. And even the plants need a recharge time, and so do we. Lots of times we need a lot more recharge than we get, because the fact of the matter is, when we're going through something that we've got to get done, we have a time schedule to get that done, and we can't just stop and rest because we need to. But during those times when we need to, Lord, help us not to feel guilty that that's what we do, because we do need that time to recharge and regroup, and to let our feelings and our visions become a little more stable, so that we're not just trying to get more things done than we can possibly do. And I guess just that vision from the Lord can more enter into your mind and heart. You can be at peace and just flow and really envision what it is you want to do and what you want to change for a new season's garden. We've been looking back at previous gardens, mostly our 2019 garden, and looking forward through it to see what we might want to do again or do differently, just ideas for the garden. And it's always wonderful to look back into history, and it helps propel us on into our future. So all the things that have gone on before us, we can use those to help our own ideas to grow from those. We left looking off in the garden sometime around June, and these are the beautiful clematis. They're small, but they make a beautiful showing when they bloom. I love this red stem of the chard on this one, and this next picture is a hardy amaryllis. And I gave one of these to my brother-in-law, and I can hardly wait for him to see it and see his reaction when his blooms. Also, I had mentioned that hollyhocks were something that I had found hard to get started. I actually had to buy the plant, and then the mother plant will put them out, and I have them all over the garden. I don't have a whole lot of them because they are a little bit hard to take care of, because once that bloom fades, and the rains come, the stalks are hard to keep upright, even with staking, and you have to just clip it down because the stalk will dry up and be actually ugly to me in the garden. So, but it's still worth it to have this little wonderful bit of beauty in the summer garden. As summer's growth comes on, you go from that fine line of lush to overgrown, and things begin to need to be clipped back a lot. And I put this picture in because it's a foxglove. It's one of the few times I've had it to bloom in my garden, and I would love for it to just put down seed and just come up like the hollyhocks do. But I have heard that it doesn't always come back true to the same color that it was the year before. I still think they could be very pretty, and I love any plant that puts some height in the garden. And this little plant is a variegated thyme, which I love, but it didn't make it in this little pot for me, but I'll probably try that again. And I love this little cone planter, even though I don't always get it right. This was Bacopa, and it didn't make it in there. Bacopa can be hard, and yet I've had it to at times just grow perfectly without any problems whatsoever. But lots of times it does, like my Calabrichoa does for me, and fizzles out in the heat. This picture is just to show you how it flourished from the picture in the previous post, and also to show you what a beautiful combination of colors this made. I will want to remember this and try it again. And when I get to the top of this, or actually there on the side, you can see a little bit of the Bells of Ireland, which I love because I tried to grow it from seed so many times before I finally got it to grow, and I enjoy it every time I see it. This is another flourishing little impatiens, which I wish my Calabrichoa would do like these, but I'm happy that they do. And then this is that little bird that my brother painted for me. He painted so many things for me, and I wish he were still here to help me paint things. But I'm just glad that he's in heaven. I know he'll be there to greet me when I leave this world and go into that next realm. And then also want more of the pretty blue balloon flowers. They also come in white and pink, but my preference is the blue simply because they look so good with many different colors. I like them with the orange lilies. And speaking of orange lilies, let's just take a little detour down a row or a little tour of the lilies that bloom in the garden when they're in season, usually June through July at least, and maybe some scraggly ones after that are still blooming. Note that pretty blue bachelor's button in the background of this one. And this one is called a spider lily. So to get back on track, I wanted to show you this little blue-green compacta alyssa, perennial alyssa. Even after it finishes that pretty yellow bloom, you get this pretty blue color in the garden. For me, the verbena is also something, this pretty blue verbena, that doesn't always last through the summer, but sometimes it does. So it's always worth a try. I think it's beautiful. My petunias also often fizzle out in the really heat of summer, but I have noticed that the double impatiens actually seem to last a little longer for me than the regular impatiens do. The little pink plant below the Indian blanket flowers is called Campanella Pink Octopus. And I don't have very many gladiolas, although I do love them. I just don't take the time to dig them up, and to treat them as an annual is pretty costly to do that each year. But I do try to do a little of it so I can have a few. And I just loved how my little fruit cocktail tree and my redbud tree kind of reached out toward each other and made a little bit of an arch. I've always loved arches with trees when you drive under them or just even to walk through them. I think I'm going to really like that. I'd like to keep it like that if I can. And I probably should have had this side by side to show the growth on this beautiful impatiens. But again, I just wish not only would the impatiens grow like this, but that my calabachoa petunias and a bunch of those other things, the fanflower and just the things that I would love to just keep going all season in the garden. I want more vinca or periwinkle. I want more zinnies, including the cactus zinnies. And even though they're non-hardy and I have to bring them in each winter, I would love to have even more hibiscus, the annual hibiscus, so beautiful. And if they didn't scatter seeds and become so invasive, I would want more of the beautiful morning glories, all the beautiful colors. This is another bird painted courtesy of my brother. He did this for me because he loved me and wanted to leave it for me. But I think he also knew that someone else might see these someday, and he might be a blessing to more than just me. And this, of course, is my seed box, which has been really good because I can get my seeds started in it. I have a place where I can watch over them, make sure they get enough water, get weeded, get what they need, and they don't get lost in the rest of the garden. And this year I had petunias. These I just sprinkled down from when they had dried up, the seeds that were in them, and so many of them came up for me. And when I put this pretty little blue bacopa in with this orange Cassandra, I was hoping it would be beautiful all season, but my little bacopa went away. Luckily, my friend Susie had given me this beautiful little ivy that just kept right on growing and filled that pot out to where it didn't have an empty spot in it at all, and it still looked great. And this little pot is a perfect example of what looking back through your pictures can help you to get something else in your mind for next year. Because I think that instead of this pretty pink periwinkle, I should have put a more spiky thing like a salvia. And I'm thinking that bright, or maybe not bright, but the orangey, peachy colored salvia would look great in this. And of course, we should be reading our scripture every day, but it never hurts to look back through the garden and find encouragement from the Word of God. And this little beauty is called Kent Beauty Trailing Ornamental Oregano. This little gnome is a gift from my sister Rose, and I just love to think of the people in my garden, and it always reminds me of them, whether it's something they gave me or something I put in the garden, because it reminds me of them in some way. And it's fun just learning about plants. This little spike is actually a dragon tree Dracaena plant. I didn't know that. But it worked great in this little pot. Some things just work better than you even thought they would, while others you have all these fantasy dreams about, and they start out like they're going to fulfill your dreams, and then they just fizzle out. At least they do in our Oklahoma heat. Big drifts and showings of flowers are wonderful. They do catch your eye, but don't forget that little things catch your eye too. I love to just come up on some of these things in the garden. And I put this picture in to show you or remind you that these had different things in when they started, but they just didn't make it. But don't let that stop you, because you can always find another little plant or just clone one and stick it in rooting powder and put it in the pot that the other one died out of, and it will just keep going and being beautiful for you. You might even decide you like it better than what you had in there in the first place. And I don't know what type of succulent this is, but I love it. It looks like little miniature hen and chickens that just clump together and keep growing and growing. They fill out a pot and look beautiful. I think they would even make a ground cover, and they may be one for all I know, but I don't know the name of it. I love it though. These are bush morning glories, and they are bright and beautiful, and they don't get invasive. At least they have not for me at all, and they do trail just a little bit. I could not have been any more proud of this little Polymer Prince begonia. So beautiful. It doesn't look anything like that now. I've got it inside, and it looks like it's been tortured, but it's alive. If I can keep it alive, I think it'll look like this again next year, or this coming spring actually, or summer. The Mandevilla plant that I brought inside though is looking really good. I was surprised that it would look that good, and I hope I can bring it back out and it'll grow again next season. You know, I want more of this beautiful tall phlox in the garden. I don't know why, but mine always seems to either go back to this color, or else this is the only color that lives for me, but it does wonderful. I truly love the bright, beautiful colors of fall, and just the fact that the weather has become nice again after all the heat we've suffered through. But I want more fall color in my garden. I have several beautiful mums, but I would like to have some of the trees that turn the beautiful foliage colors of orange and maybe wine colors. These are the pretty strawberry fields plant. And then these are the pansies, which I don't do very many of, simply because our spring is pretty short and our summers are so hot that these don't have much of a chance except in the winter time. And in the winter time, I'm usually trying to hibernate from the garden at least a little bit. And then comes the day in the garden when everything turns brown, or practically everything is looking dead. But you know you've got some rest coming, and you're anxious to get to that too. And then the final straw probably is when you walk out there and see ice over everything, and you know not much is going to live after that in the garden until next spring. And I still say the garden is a wonderful place to be. I think a person just feels prettier when they're sitting in the garden. Not necessarily when they're working in there, because sometimes you have to get pretty ugly to make something beautiful. Please be sure to like and subscribe to our channel.